All right. Yep. I think we're good. We're
Good to
live
go?
streaming. Yep.
Nice.
I had several chances to listen to this album, and I
Uh,
must admit, most of it was hard to listen through.
really?
There were
Wow.
some songs that I thought were good, and there were a bunch of other ones that I thought was like difficult to go through. But
You mean sonically or lyrically? We can cross those bridges when we
um
come to it.
it's I want to say the lyrics and like ruined it more for me.
Interesting.
But there were some good ones.
I don't think I had a song that I didn't like the lyrics of. But we can go track by track. I
Sure.
love this album. Um, is this even in the wheelhouse of genres you like? I guess is
It
the
kind
first question I want to
it's
ask.
it's weird because it's been a long time since I've listened to Paramore. And like I remember some of
Yeah.
their older music back when I was like in middle school. And like
Mhm.
I don't know. I got it. It was fine.
Misery Business, Ignorance.
Yeah.
What is it? The only exception? Tears every time.
That was sung
No.
by Paramore?
The only exception? Yeah. That's
Really?
them. Yeah.
Wow.
That's their one of their big ones.
Yeah. I like I I don't know. I guess it seemed like such a sad song
I think she
by
she talks about
comparison.
mostly sad stuff too.
Yeah. I think it just fits the sad song vibes well.
Yeah, fair enough. This is a band that I think has changed sonically. I don't know. I could go on a rant about like the emo pop punk stuff that I used to listen to in middle school, but I think this band hasn't had a big miss for me, like Fall Out Boy or Panic at the Disco has. Um, and they're sonically changing in a good way to where it's still modern and it doesn't sound like they're trying to chase like an old sound or do something entirely new. Because like if I hear the new Panic at the Disco or if I hear the new Fall Out Boy, it's like the mid 2000s to late 2000s pop punk is dead. Like no one listens to it anymore. They listen to it for nostalgia.
Yeah.
Or if you want to listen to those things, you go back to those albums. You don't listen to their new stuff where they're trying to do it again or capture that catchiness that they used to have. Or yeah,
So
that's as
yeah.
much as
All
I'll say
right, all
for me.
right.
Yeah.
So keep it in mind it's like an evolutionary journey for the music genre as a whole. Uh
Yes.
and where
Yeah,
they
because
land
because
is yeah.
because you don't hear. I mean, you kind of hear this pop punk sound on the radio, but it's been infused with maybe there's a rap verse on it, or maybe there's some weird like ambient. I don't know, like it's more alt rock than it is like pop punk anymore. Nothing's really that punk anymore.
Gotcha.
You're not gonna hear Green Day on the radio or Blink 182 or yeah. Um, but I think Paramore has done a great job of, and they've taken the time to, which I actually very much respect, to change their sound in a way that's still able to be played on the radio without sounding like they're trying to capture an old sound.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But Yeah, we can go track by track. I think. Yeah, when I brought this one up, I didn't expect it to be. I guess I don't know what I was expecting, but I thought that it wouldn't entirely be in your genre lane either. When is Spencer recommending, like, yeah, like alternative rock, or like pop rock to anyone? So
Ah,
definitely a
it's good
different
though.
vibe.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what genre is the most outside your comfort zone too that we've done in the past.
It's so strange because as I was like having this um realization that this genre or this whole album just seemed off to me, with the exception of Big Man Little Dignity. Like all of it just seemed not in my taste. And then I had to think about like what other genres that really weren't in my taste. And I don't know, like even I have some level of appreciation for like screamo music, heavy metal.
I mean, we listened
Um,
to Mood Ring. I haven't busted out the really out there stuff yet,
yeah,
but we listened to Mood Ring, and I'd say that's heavier than this, at least instrumentally.
like even country is like memey in the sense that it's so distant that I understand it's meant for someone else. For this
I feel
one,
the same way.
this album is like I can't, it doesn't feel like it's meant for me.
I don't think it feels like it's meant for the band more than anyone else.
Fair enough.
I
Yeah.
think because they've had lineup changes, they've had lineup drama in the past too. Um,
How old is this band, by the way? I
Dude,
can't remember.
they've been around
Like
since
15?
early 2000s, maybe 20 plus years.
Damn.
When did their first record come out? Weeking this 2004, yeah, so 19 years.
Wow.
Um, uh, yeah, this band has been in and out of my life since they started. Honestly, I saw them live 2007, and they kick ass. Live. Um, at like, oh no, was it Key Arena back in the day? I guess. Yeah, right. Before it
Tacoma
became
one
Climate
or
Pledge,
Everett?
which is the one that got renamed. It's Key Arena, right? Seattle. Yeah, it's Climate Pledge now.
Oh.
In Seattle. Yeah, because the Supersonics used to play there. So I think that's where they were. I went to. It was like Jingle Bell Bash is what it was called. I think. Dude, I'm remembering it all now. And like all the pop punk, like Fall Out Boy was playing that same night. I think. And like Boys Like Girls and yeah, I don't think Panic at the Disco was playing, but all the old like our late elementary school to early middle school music on the radio was doing that show, and Paramore was one of them. So
So in terms of their performance, how do you think they do in comparison to like other live concerts that you've seen?
live, oh, they kick ass. They're great.
What do
Haley's
you,
great,
how do you
especially.
evaluate? I'm
Um,
assuming Haley's the singer.
yeah, she's the lead singer. Um, I think being able to maintain a solid um like sound as close to the record as possible, but also naturally, like not a lot of backing track, not a lot of external help. In addition to, you know, mixing up a performance in a way that I can get something new without having to just listen to the album
Yeah.
too. Like, oh, maybe they alternate, they change up a melody here and there, or they add another vocal run or a drum fill or a guitar lick or something in a place where I'm not expecting it that sounds good. And, you know, I don't want to have the thought that, oh, I could just listen to this. If they're too close to the record, I could just listen to this at home and not have to come out to the show.
Right.
Um, what Haley does live too is really good in that she's very energetic. She's a great front woman, and that energy to interact with the crowd and be um, so upbeat live is, you know, you see the lead singer getting excited for everyone. You're gonna emulate that as well, as opposed to if they just stand still and stand and deliver, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
um, solid band live. I wish I could see them again. I should probably see them again, but way back when it was a great performance. Um, and I haven't disliked the band since. But we can start talking about the tracks. Um, yeah,
I was actually looking up events from them.
they're touring now. I think I haven't paid a ton of attention. I've only paid attention to musical releases.
Washington D.C. Oh, never mind. That's just it. I don't see him anywhere else.
You have
Wow, that sucks.
a.
Is there more events? Seattle. Oh, there we
Well, they're doing
go.
Climate Pledge in July.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind. Yeah, the first track very much is the lead single, um, title track. This is why.
My
Um,
list is out of order. I'm kind of peeved. But I
did you
do
listen
remember
to it with
most of it.
shuffle on? I swear to God, Spencer.
No, I did not. I did not. No,
I've done that
if I'm
before.
being honest, I don't think it'll be like yeah, I don't know. It was hard memorizing the names when I guess my feelings didn't change between songs.
Hmm.
So that's part of it. But I do remember I think most of them to some extent. So we'll see how well my memory holds up.
Okay. I've only I've only listened to the whole album once through. I've listened to my favorites at least a few times, and I'll mention which ones are my favorites.
Any reason why it was only one time?
Um, it's an introspective album. There's not a lot of songs. At least this past week, I've been searching for music that's a little more high energy,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of slow cuts on this one. So, like, I mean, I'll point them out right now. I mean, this is why the news running out of time. I think those are the big ones. Maybe Crave as well. Um, I've listened more than once, but we'll go down the list and we'll see. The first one's "This Is Why," title track, the lead single too. I don't know how long ago this was released. At least a month or no, more than a month ago. Um, 4 months ago. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
This was an album announcement, I think. Um, I like this track a lot. Um, it's funny because I don't know if you were in the conversation last night in the Discord, but we were talking about like, would you date an influencer or anyone that had some sort of aspect of their life in the public view. And I said no, personally, because I don't want people critiquing, I don't want people speculating, I don't want people to know about what I'm doing. I enjoy my independence and sense of just like privacy even. And I think when they wrote this song they had that in mind, and that's the main theme of it, is that, you know, they're talking about, or at least I know Haley writes a lot too, but I know the rest of the band writes just as much. But they talk about, yeah, wanting to like stay at home. She talks about, this is why I don't leave the house. Um, and she talks about people always shooting out opinions when they don't need to. And I dig that. I relate to that. Sometimes it's best not to talk when you don't have anything nice to say. And that's how I was raised too. I was raised on that, so I definitely can relate to that. Um, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm looking over the lyrics. I'm sup- well, I guess my question to you is, how do you know that this song is about like influencer culture per se? Or is that just like a connection that you've made about like
It was just a
influencers?
connection.
Okay.
Yeah, because I know I used to follow the band on Instagram, and Haley, the lead singer, deleted her Instagram, and I think she had expressed publicly that she's tired of social media, and she like deleted all of them for several years. And I think this song attributes that.
So
um,
sure. Is
yeah,
house in this, in like the chorus, supposed to represent social bubble or
even that, yeah, yeah, or yeah, even being, I would say even outside of, yeah, any sort of public eye or your own space even. Cause she, oh, I'm trying to relate. She dated a guitarist. The lead singer Haley dated a guitarist from another popular pop punk band that I can't remember the name of at the moment. Oh yeah, big band, popular. I think he cheated on her, and like, yeah, social media went wild. Like so many speculation, so many, as you do, as you should expect from the internet. Um, and I would be remiss if that didn't affect her in some way. I mean, it would affect me. I'd want people to shut up, or I'd want to be away from it, right? And I think that, you know, so many things can attribute to this song that that can give the imagery of your house being your own individuality. Um, and you give some of that up when you make content or your profession is in the public eye. So thoughts, Penny, for your thoughts.
thinking?
One step beyond your door might as well be in a free fall. Yeah, or even, I don't even know. She this sounds like a letter to like media too. You say that in the chorus. She says, "You say the coast is clear, but you won't catch me out." Like, it's this. There's this skepticism to anyone that's talking to her that isn't someone she trusts, or even like be a friend or something. Like you could get baited.
I guess I'm trying to feel out what it would take as a songwriter to make a song about your relationship with social media in the way that the music's like performed. I I guess like part of the alienation feeling that I have with this album is like not recognizing that the way I would perform a song about like distancing from social media or um I I don't know, whatever um, the band was conveying through the song, that I would go about it in the way that they took it.
How do you mean? Like, how
Like
would
the
you?
musical art part of like the song. So lyrically, lyrically, I think the way that you explained it cleared up a bunch of holes in gaps rather that I couldn't realize or appreciate with the song. And I guess part of the reason I didn't give the lyrics as much of a try as I probably should have is like the way that the song presented this message. And that's maybe more of like my
Be
own self-realization that
no, I'm
I
just curious.
discriminated against the art.
Be more specific about the art itself, though. When you talk about presentation, do you mean like their vocal melody, the pace of the song, the? I think Haley's she's had a different vocal evolution over time. Um, and I can see that being off-putting to some people in terms of presentation. Um, you're not gonna find lyrics like hers, like akin to like a Kendrick Lamar or something like that, where it's like it's a triple entendre and you gotta sift through like all the references and the the rhymes and the different schema. But I don't know. I guess I'm curious what about the presentation through you. It could also be like due to you know not being down the middle of your lane or you know.
The mix of that. I don't know. I guess so as a songwriter presenting this idea about distancing from social media and perhaps even the like toxic nature that you would have with it or
Mhm.
that it's brought Haley. I don't know if I would um it's the song itself reminds me of a lecture, or whenever
Okay.
you hear like the image that I have is some woman or anyone just being like talking like this every single word because you can, kind of deal. It's like I've thought about this shit and now I'm clapping my hands at every single word because people haven't caught on. And maybe that is actually like the beauty of the song in itself, and I just haven't come to really realize that that's what it's supposed to speak to.
Hmm. I think what you said is true, and I think that's what they're going for with the message of the song, though, because this song isn't for the people who aren't doing these things that they're accusing them of doing. This is
Yeah.
for those people that they don't like that are making assumptions or that like to talk out of their ass, right?
Yeah.
And you are, and the power of being an audience member, a self-aware audience member who doesn't do these things. I think I put myself in the shoes of those audience members and I jam along with them. Because yeah, people should shut the fuck up. And I feel that way. And so I'm putting myself in the shoes or alongside the band as opposed to maybe feeling on the other end of that lecture.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I think how that conversation evolved probably speaks to my experience the best. So I think having that new perspective of the band has like a target audience, and even though that it's broadcasted to everyone and the target audience, like contextually knowing, I guess, what the song is supposed to represent gives me a new appreciation for it.
I'm glad you brought it up because I don't think there's been a music discussion where I've had to shift a perspective in a way. I mean, we've been in places where we've had to put ourselves in the writer's shoes, but I guess yeah, something that maybe there's a Logic song or maybe there's a Keshi song. Like I'm thinking of like Millie from Keshi, or like one of the other Logic songs where they're talking at someone, and then you're supposed to like in a way stand by the artist as opposed to be on the other end or being the one talked at.
Right.
Um,
Like the relatability of the song, especially for me, I think it relates more to you, as
mhm.
you've described your perspective on like what people should be sharing publicly. But I guess for me, I have less of a that's less of a concern to me than other things. So it's not like the first thing that I think of when I remember the lyrics per se.
It's fair.
So I think that's also why the dots connecting took a little bit longer than how it should have. Actually, I probably would have never achieved that if you didn't tell me about it. So
Here to explore. After all. Next song?
sure.
News.
I guess to I mean, I already explained it, but I think a better way for me to describe like the phenomenon that I just went through is just realizing the expression and having appreciation for how it's expressed is I think the conclusion that I came to. Newfound appreciation for the expression.
What'd you think about this song? We could get political about it, but I think it's best to form some distance. But in general, I like what this song calls out.
So this is directly related to the Ukraine war, huh?
Yes, there's some conversation about like political agendas too, and um, not really like bandwagoning or all that stuff. But yes. Um,
So while I hadn't actually like looked at the lyrics and until as I'm doing this music review actually, but some of like the lyrics to me as I was giving these like normal listens to this one in particular I could understand just getting away from the news of the world that seemingly is just makes your worldview worse, or it doesn't better your worldview. So I think the disconnect was part of the takeaway that I had from this song, and I could appreciate it. I don't actually remember specifically like how the song went, but I remember the lyrics a little bit.
I'm trying to remember because I don't think I've re-listened to this one since the initial listen. Um,
I just did a quick sample from from my phone.
yeah.
So I was playing it to myself. Yeah. Wow. I think I also had less tolerance for the expression or how it was expressed.
It feels more like a introspective one, as opposed to something more outward, like in the previous track.
Yes.
Kind of like a study on current events, almost.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's some relatability elements to, I guess, some of the sentiments that she has to sing. I don't know. I guess for me it's give some quotes here. I'm far, so far from a front line. Quite the opposite. I'm safe inside. But I worry and I give money and feel useless behind this computer. And that's just barely scratched the surface of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that's I think this also speaks on behalf of like the disservice that news has for the individual. It makes you feel or like morally obligated to a cause that speaks on injustice, or rather it like the news gives you a frame of injustice that happens elsewhere in the world, but
Mm-hmm.
that injustice and capitalizing on the morals of someone is what gets people emotionally, morally invested into a cause that really has nothing to do with them or should have had nothing to do with them in the first place. And so for me it's like it's unfair as a audience listener to people who want to speak on world events that I need to be pulled into a cause that really had nothing to do with me ever. But in general, morally, like my compass has to disagree that I have to get involved.
Right.
And that usually is in the form of just emotion more so than it is financially, but some people take the extra step and end up being financially involved as well.
Mm-hmm. I want to bring some. I don't know how often you've ever watched a news, like a cable news program, but in the like bridge, some lyrics are exploitative, performative, informative, and we don't know half of it. Rhetorical, deplorable, historical, and all along we called it normal. I remember, like as a kid and even growing up, whenever cable news was on, it was so repetitive, and it was so um yeah, like she says, performative too. Like they're always talking. To be blunt, they're always talking, and a lot of the time they're just talking out of their ass, and they're repeating these lines. Not out of their ass. It's all scripted, but like they're always repeating these lines, and every like half hour it's the same program. So, you know, I guess some people continue to watch it for updates, like you said, like Ukraine. Um, Even if there's like a shooting, like a school shooting, or like anything of like cultural relevance that
Oh,
people want to
oh,
know more about, they're
interesting.
always, yeah, but they're always maybe you're holding out for something. That's not how I like to consume my media or my news, but so much of the world consumes the news like this. And
Right.
so, you know, there have been there have been people that I've known that only consume media this way and don't learn to not necessarily think for themselves but do research for themselves, and they just jump to conclusions and they don't, you know. I think that can be attributed to some of the lyrics of, every second our collective heart breaks, altogether every single head shakes. Like, that's, if you're not thinking for yourself, if you're not forming your own opinions or trying to be more informed or have a discussion, then you're going to end up like everyone else who just watches that news program and
Wow.
then shuts it off. So, yeah, that's why she mentions exploitative. Yep. But she also says informative, and we don't know half of it. Like, yeah, it's informing, but when I watch the news these days, it's a waste of time. They say maybe one thing that's a fact, and then the rest of it is complete BS. People pushing agendas, you know, that kind of garbage. And so, I'll go to other outlets for information and then form my opinions about that. But that's not how most Americans or people consume news.
It's pretty awful. There were a couple things that like I wanted to respond to. The first being like
Oh.
the way that I interpreted war on the far side was quite literally, and on the other side of the planet. But that could be like a metaphor for just someone down the street
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
they live their own lives and they're having seemingly in just like another world. So when you brought up like school shootings, that is definitely like a tragedy on par with I guess what this could speak to. So that part I had like a a moment of appreciation for that perspective. The other one being um the news feeds into like a collective emotional
Hmm.
response, and whether that's good or not for us is not like isn't questioned enough, but nobody has a guideline of how to consume media.
Yes.
And I think that was the way you had worded it was beautifully said, towards that idea. um Obviously the informative part was like after you talking about it and then rereading the lyrics again and like not knowing the half of it, I guess I tied that into a point that someone had made more on the right side, but there's a zillion facts in the world that you can make, like a zillion observations you can make, and you can still point out like very specific ones to sway perspective over a situation. Um, so it's selective fact choosing per se
Yes.
to influence narratives, and that's kind of shitty. And the I'm trying to remember what your last point was, but I had a response for that too.
I forgot what I was talking about too.
I think it was along the lines of like nobody knows how to consume media properly. Is was the point that I wanted to make. So yeah,
Hmm.
like everyone's fed through. Oh no, it was you had talked about how seemingly Americans just consume media and then like move on without making the interpretive effort or the effort to go seek out facts more. And what sucks is that I think it's a standard of today to have people seek out information when in reality all of that's a pretty exhausting effort. But
Oh
we
yeah.
just call it like adulting to some extent. So just being like a responsible adult is keeping up with how like the world is operating around you. But nobody speaks to how exhausting of an effort that actually is. Because there's a lot of, and honestly, there's not like an achievable point where you understand the world either.
Yes. I like that.
Like you can still seek out more and more information, get different perspectives or different like details about how situations go, but you never truly understand like all the important pieces to an event because you just can't from both a third person perspective or even a first person perspective when you're objectively observing something. And that's like it's such a it sucks that that's an expectation and we expect people to be somewhat um or rather we expect people to achieve like some level of understanding to have like their own opinion on it, but that's a lot of work. And I think the common ground is just to adopt like someone else's perspective in the meantime,
Right.
just to fill that role or fill that responsibility.
Yeah. Because it's easy to watch what, like a 5-minute segment on a certain issue, hear people's opinions, adopt them, and then turn off the news. But it's hard to become an informed individual with the media climate that we have today. Like you mentioned, even like the people that will omit certain like pieces of information, and even when she says informative and we don't know half of it, um, like we don't know. They're omitting stuff just to fit their narrative. Like, oh, the vaccines are bad because my one grandpa, his pee pee fell off or something. And I'm just like, okay, the one grandpa's pee pee fell off. That could be anything. Did your grandpa's pee pee fall off? Why would you? You know, I
we
feel like that's true.
we need to make a
That's
meme about that
information.
now. My grandpa pee pee fell off.
my grandpa pee pee. But was it the vaccine? I don't know. Was it? I'd look into that. I'd get a doctor's opinion on that. I'd search what other ailments your grandpa had too. Like that's exhausting, right? But
Yeah,
that's also what you have to do to be an informed individual.
right.
Um, so yeah, it's
Taking that
tough.
yeah, taking that some steps further too. It's the point that you don't know if information's being omitted in presentation, and that's like the shittiest part about that. So
Oh yeah, it's so subtle.
because it's very possible that they're telling the whole truth of what they're capable of. So they're not even like omitting information at all to begin with. But it's the fact that you have to question that everything now has, well, it's so easy to omit information, but every source of information that you find can still be omitting information or it could be telling you the whole truth. So it's just like a shitty situation that honestly it never ends because you're still in search of information wherever you go, in hopes that you get like the full picture of everything, which I think is why people praise like seeking out multiple sources of knowledge
Mhm.
or perspective. So um I thought I was gonna respond to one more thing. Nope. You know what? I'll just call it on that.
Cool. Next track.
Well, I guess to sum up that last track though, the news, not it was not it was like another one of those songs that just felt like noise.
I
But
I've been listening to it in the background while we've been talking.
yeah,
I think sonically it's one of those that isn't in my wheelhouse either. I like the lyrics, but I don't know what it is about. Maybe it's the guitar mix or um, the transitions between the track. It's not up there for me. Like this is why, but you know that's how I feel.
right. Lyrically
Uh,
beautiful. I will
yeah,
admit. So I don't know. Between This Is Why and the news, I'm having newfound appreciation
oh, that's
for
good.
these
I'm glad to
thoughts.
hear that.
So all
Next
right.
track is Running Out of Time. This is my favorite on the album, actually. Verses are a little weird. I'd say to someone who isn't established in the genre, but I love this track. I think the melody in the chorus is very simple, but it's very like gives me a little bit old school Paramore, which is why I think I like it so much. But the message is pretty straightforward. Um, and I can relate to this song fairly, at least as of late. Um, talking about just poor time management, poor feeling like there's always something coming up, and feeling like you could make an excuse for everything, but at the end of the day, you're just late. But yeah, thoughts?
Still disconnected from like the musical aspect of it. And I think like the other two, I'm still having an appreciation, or like I'm now developing appreciation for like the lyrics, and especially the way that you related it to your own life. So
Hmm.
and the way that you described it too is I think a pretty common phenomenon that people
Hmm.
feel. So
I think people, yeah, will find this one relatable.
yeah.
I think this is one of the bigger tracks too. That one of the more popular ones. Um, yeah. Um, when I showed up at the party, but I ran out of time. Versus just talking about anecdotal experiences, or maybe not anecdotal. Maybe it's just stuff she came up with in her head while she was writing it. I don't know. Um, these are all very common situations. Um, I think what's interesting is this pre-chorus of the first pre-chorus. Intentions only get you so far. What if I'm just a selfish prick? No regard. Um, questioning yourself, your like your moral compass, or even your integrity as a person. Like, is that inherent to you as a person that you're always late, but you care? Or if you really did care, you would overcome this characteristic and causing you to always be on time or early. I don't know if that's a question that I ask myself too. It's like, oh, if I really cared about this thing, would I make more effort to do all the steps to reevaluate this habit and solve it? Or do I still care, but this is a part of me, right?
Yeah, I'm starting to realize like how beautiful this this song actually, or the lyrics are.
Fire metaphorically. Okay. Yeah. Be there in 5 hyperbolically. So exaggerated, be there in 5. She's not going to be there in 5. She's going to be there in 15. I feel that.
Wow. Yeah, part of my mind just wandered to like the problem solving part of like this dilemma of so say if you are just like feeling like your time's running out, what's the solution to that? But maybe that's like beyond the scope of what what this talk should be about or this podcast should be about. But that's more so of where like my mind wandered as I'm realizing the beauty of the day-to-day dilemmas that people face.
I watched she had a Genius interview for this song that I watched before the podcast where she talks about the meaning of this song. It is pretty much what we talked about, but yeah, there's a lot of like questioning of her own character. And in the bridge she says why we got to be in a rush. My watch is just for decoration. Um that is that what I like about that is that hey, here's this entire song on why it's fucked up that I'm always late or why it's annoying that this is inherent to my character. But there's always that little bit where you're like where you'll flip and you'll criticize the opposite side. Like why we all got to be in a rush, you know? Like why are you all punctual? Can I just have some leeway? So I thought that was interesting to add as a lyric in the bridge. And then she talks about showing up early for once, and that's it's a new sensation, you know, like a uncharacteristic sensation, I guess.
Like you're fulfilling some, I don't know. You've done something that aligns with your ethical compass
Yeah, or even just
that honestly has no reason to be there. Was like the point I was going to make after that.
what do you mean? Like the feeling?
Um maybe to some extent I think part of this song is also poking fun at like how structured things are expected to be.
Sure.
And so when I read the line, "Look, I showed up early for once. Now that's a new sensation." It's like I'm fulfilling a social construct expectation or like socially constructed to be like timely, to
Hmm.
show up on time for specific things. But really that's just like some obligation that I had that is seemingly losing meaning because it brings me less meaning for my life in realization that my time is like important to me,
Hmm.
or I'm realizing that my time's like more important to me than what my responsibilities are telling me for. Like I should be valuing it more, or I should like not be throwing it away as much as I have been, which is how I perceive like running out of time to be.
Hmm. I like that. Yeah.
I mean, I'm okay to move on. I think I've
Yeah.
said
I'm done with
already
roasting
that
there.
I did that. I was about to just repeat myself about things I've already said. So
Next one. C'est comme ça. I'm not crazy about this track sonically. I think it it has a place here. It's just the chorus doesn't hit me in any particular way. C'est comme ça in English, it's a French phrase. It means it's like that or it is what it is. And I'm trying to think of. I didn't spend too much time thinking about this song. Reading the verses because the chorus is just C'est comme ça. In a single year, I've aged 100. My social life, a chiropractic appointment. That just means she's like old. Her social life is old. Sit still long enough to listen to yourself, or maybe just long enough for you to atrophy to hell. That's interesting. You could, you could, you could take the thoughts that you have and learn from them, and develop yourself as a human being further, or you could just become bitter and angry all the time and let yourself become an unlikable person. Um, I don't know. I think it's a coming of age kind of song. Off caffeine on doctor's orders, said it was going to help level out my hormones. Lucky for me, I run on spite and sweet revenge. It's my dependence on the friction that really hinders my progression. I know that regression is rarely rewarded. I still need a certain degree of disorder. Yeah, it's almost like a acknowledgement of certain characteristics of yourself that can be can be like negatively treating, but at the same time it's, you know, that's how it is. That's the way it is. It is how it is. Right. And she says, I hate to admit getting better is boring, but at the high cost of chaos, who can afford it? Right. So at some point you've gotta work on your mental health. You've gotta stop trying to regress and for your own self preservation move forward. She's acknowledging here. Yeah. But once again, that's boring, right? Because chaos is more fun. Chaos is more exciting.
really, yep, you're right. I just read the lyrics wrong. I was questioning over the line I've aged 100. In a single year, I've aged 100. Is that the experience of suffering? Or is that the experience of stagnation?
I would think stagnation. I'm trying to think of, maybe they're talking about the pandemic in this verse. So like being home alone. Yeah, my social life, a chiropractic appointment. Like it sit still long enough to listen to yourself. Like all of those things, like being indoors, curfews, all of that. All of that. You're maybe, I don't know. Maybe you're. To some, you might be mentally aging faster because you have more time to yourself and less time for chaos.
Is that where wisdom comes from?
Being
time to
solitary.
yourself? Yeah.
Um, I think wisdom comes with more experience, but having productive time to yourself helps wisdom as well. Helps move wisdom along.
Is that valuable? Or is that an
I'd say yeah.
expectation?
To be wise.
Is that like, yeah, I guess the question that I meant to put forward instead was, is that like, is it socially expected of people to grow with wisdom, or yeah, grow with like solitude, or be self-aware, wise, like knowledgeable of yourself? Or is that um is that a valued thing, or is that an expectation of people to achieve?
I think I think it's a bit of both. I think when you encounter someone who's older than you, I don't know if your parents ever told you this growing up, but when you encounter someone older than you, no matter the type of life they've lived, there is a uh, I guess they say respect your elders, and I think that's because in a way the amount of life that your elders have lived is always um, there is some amount of wisdom that you can gain knowledge or even perspective from. And that can be an expectation of old people, but that can also be right a value as well.
I guess another idea that I was thinking of is that aging 100 in a single year a testament to the experience of regression? So instead of the idea of stagnation, perhaps it's the feeling that they've reverted.
I like that idea. Um, I don't know where to jump off from that.
We could also put this one down at any point in time. I thought it was
We're going
pretty
deep.
beautiful, but
I
as
like the
like,
verses, the lyrics in the verses.
right,
That's something to think about. I don't got anything at the moment,
okay.
but down to revisit. The next one, Big Man, Little Dignity.
Okay, I'm gonna take a small sample moment. Uh, so I'll be quiet.
This was a slower one, right? Yeah, a little mellower vibe, even though the lyrics don't seem mellow at all.
I'm like
Yeah.
glancing over the lyrics at the same time. I think as a song, I enjoy the melody, which I think is more of what I highlight too. The vocal parts of yeah, the vocal parts of the song too is pleasing to my ears.
Mm, it is very mellow.
Though, if I'm being honest, I don't know if there's too much substance with the song, other than it feels like a
Call out to douchey dudes.
yeah, like a a call out to the shitters. Ah, wonderful.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot to talk about. I mean, we could talk about this song as guys, and we could talk about,
Yeah, let's
you know,
do it. Let's shit on other
feminism
men. Let's go.
and and how dudes are not good at approaching
I,
women in general.
yeah, I had this conversation last night with someone, and it was speaking on behalf of like the dating game, and they were talking about their experience as a woman, about like what it's like to be um, dating guys, and I think it's there's a trend in how the people who they were with, and I don't even know if this song is specific to like dating per se, but
Hmm.
you can definitely see a line between the dating culture when it comes to men treating women in those dynamics, and how this song portrays like a dehumanizing or even scripted dance between like
Yes,
the man and the woman role. So
I think it's so. God, I could go off about this. it's it's definitely demoralizing to women to know that there are so many guys out there that act the way that Haley's portrayed in this song. And I've seen it. Like it's you know, I'd argue it's very common. Um uh is it annoying and disgusting? Yeah, yeah. Um there's no filter, there's no um what's the word I'm trying to use? Restraint. And there's no foresight with what a lot of these guys do. And so I can I in a way I low key kind of put myself in the singer's shoes of, if there's a guy acting douchey towards one of my female friends at like the club even, or whenever we go out, yeah, I want to see him fail. I want to see him do these stupid moves, and I want to see him, like she says, I can't look away. You're like a movie I love to hate. I fantasize your demise. Yeah, I feel the same way. Um, and the thing towards the end of the bridge that Haley talks about is, this time the end will be different, but it isn't. I keep thinking the end is going to be different, but you keep on winning. And I think that's an interesting way to say that. And I could be reading into this wrong, but that the douchey guy also gets douchey girls. I guess like it works on some people
Yeah,
because there's
totally.
always someone who's
Like
gonna entertain them.
right. Like there's no reason that the behavior has existed for so long and it's like gotten no reward from.
Right. That's how evolution works, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, the rewards exist only because people have acted this way, or people have gotten rewarded for acting this way, and so it becomes a echo chamber of what's been working, and they don't realize or have the foresight to understand what you're actually doing, or maybe they do, but they realize it too late in life when they're lonely and they get divorced, or their marriage doesn't work out, or sorry, I'm delving in too deep. Next,
Ah.
we can move on from that. But
Sure.
I don't know if you had any other thoughts before we move on.
Um, I think it's really sad that this is the. Uh, I think there were parts of this that you're so smooth, it's pitiful. And like part of the song to me strikes me as like somewhat of a level of attention message. And so they're like part of the reward system for the guys in this is that they're being seen, whether it's like forced observation or they're
I
scripted
mean,
well enough to know how these people are supposed to interact with them. And to me that's like, as someone who, a little revealing, as someone who has like troubles with like getting female attention, that's even something that they have over me per se.
right.
So like part of the song also brings to light the acknowledgement of existence and to somewhat even like power that the man has over them, or like the, yeah.
Right. Because in a room where everyone's the same, you don't have to be. You don't have to have all the boyfriend qualifications or like the ideal guy qualifications. If someone's louder than you, they're louder than you, and that's less spotlight on you. That's just how it can be sometimes.
Yeah.
Or
And
if someone's better at just like small talk, like even something like that. And there's not necessarily anything bad with that, but sometimes the most obnoxious and like strongly come on guys are the ones being noticed as someone who is very much invisible
right.
in these
And
situations.
I think part of the reason why I view that as bad is because I think that that draws attention away from a opportunity that would be better worth their time.
Hmm.
And that's like the feeling that I can't shake from this the way that these lyrics present this observation of a guy. So in the way that we've like drawn lines between like the dating scene and whatnot.
Hmm.
So as someone who's, I guess, somewhat invisible in the same way, um, it feels like that's like a moment taken away from me.
Right.
Which on the flip side could also mean that I'm not doing a good enough job to not be invisible, or that I'm not doing a good enough job to be visible. But it's as the wording of this song portrays, it's like, yes, you have this power over me, and also yes, I want to see you fail so hard that I'm gonna make it like worthwhile to spend extra effort on you.
Hmm.
And that's that one thing you can change for yourself, which is like to be visible, but even if you are visible, this person's kind of on like a hate track for seeing this person fail. So
Right.
it's like kind of a hopeless perspective for the invisible sense. I don't think you can stop the rage to better fit your chances.
Exactly. I like that. Let's close that. What's the next song? You first. I've listened to this once. I remember it being pretty deep of a metaphor. Um, Once again, shall play it in the background while we talk about it. Kind of revenge. You should just take it from me.
Wow. So I suppose I'm drawing parallels to like the news song and somewhat of This Is Why as well. I think those are moments of speculation over how um, outlets of information have been negatively impacting like the human psyche. And I think this one is somewhat of the same. That the interactions that you've had all up until this point is now questioning both the mix of your existence and your morals and how you interact with other people who's supposed to be good for you, being like hypersensitive to different stimuli when it comes to like your network in both information and relationships.
Hmm.
So like the pre-chorus, just like a stray animal, I keep feeding scraps, I give it my energy and it keeps on coming back. And I don't know if this is specifically for the devil comment that
I think it is.
okay.
I would think it is, yeah.
So is this feeding into the pleasure of the moment or the desires of the moment?
I think so. Or like I guess like self-indulging in a way. Like personifying that self-indulgence.
Right.
Like you keep indulging that, not really a gut feeling, but yeah, like that devil on your shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
I think the chorus talks about how everyone has that devil and how everyone feeds that devil in varying amounts. Um, Everyone has some sort of inherent, uh, not less like a bad guy side, but also like you can talk about intrusive thoughts. You can talk about yeah desires that aren't in your best interest, that are entirely due to pleasure or word I'm looking for, maybe narcissistic in nature.
Yeah. I definitely see that with other people. I wasn't thinking more so on like the self negative thought. I thought it was more of the like the indulging in pleasure opportunities. And I can think of people like that who in the moment go and do something that just because they have the opportunity to, without really thinking about like the long-term effects that it might have on them. And so I think the devil is speaking more so on behalf of that, but that also feeds into I don't think the devil being there is the negative thoughts of like self-criticism or lacking towards your responsibilities is why that's there. I think that's just the cause of the devil being there,
Hmm.
or a byproduct of listening to the devil. So I also thought the chorus portrayed that pretty beautifully. Everyone to some extent knows that there's opportunities for to like fulfill needs of the moment that may have consequences in the future. And everyone has like their own compass on that. Um and instead of reading into that everyone has a devil on them, I think part of the negative moral outlook that Haley has on other people, and I guess the band. This shouldn't. I don't think this is exclusive to Haley for the lyrics, but um, I think it's I think it's the view that people who indulge on that is like somewhat considered a bad guy,
Hmm.
and not because that every opportunity to indulge like has negative consequences, because some people or some of them don't, but it's the unrestrained behavior of indulging in that regardless if there is consequences in the future or not is like what makes it bad. And I think the behavior nowadays is to be unrestrained with pleasure seeking.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how I've taken those lines, or that context of the song.
I guess it is interesting that it is. I guess in the moment, yeah, everyone that indulges in that is a bad guy. It's almost like an absolute statement in a way. And there's nothing, I guess we talk about like, does that make you a bad like person, right? Or is it inherent to everyone that everyone has this? Because if everyone has this and everyone's indulged at least once, are we bad people? You know?
Yeah, yeah. um I guess to the added context in the few lines after that, who's the worst? Karma's gonna come for all of us. So I think to some extent there's acknowledgement of like a justice system for doing so. And I don't think this particularly acknowledges that there's I don't think this particularly acknowledges or addresses people who indulge in something that don't have consequences in the future. I think she's particularly calling out people who do something in the moment for pleasure that has negative consequences, or like
Mm,
yeah, that has negative consequences. So I guess a redefinition of how I view the song. I think that's more of what she's addressing. So when everyone is a bad guy, it's like knowing that people do that, and the those specific instances where there's negative consequences in the future is recognized as the karma.
okay. I like that.
And I I guess as I'm reading into the last part of the chorus, and I just hope that she comes first, comes for you first. I think part of that is recognizing that everyone has a little bit of sin in them for
Hmm.
acting on the pleasures of the moment. Um and that she'll be like excused amongst the population for taking advantage of that since everyone's done it.
Since everyone's more of a bad guy than she is, right?
Yeah. Or rather, like, she's among many, so that she can be forgotten amongst the many. And that there's also people, also acknowledging that there's people who do worse than she does.
Mm. I like that. Moving along. Figure 8. You're liking this one too.
I was finishing up the last part of the lyrics. I don't think there's anything else I want to talk about.
Oh, I like this one a lot. Yeah, this one jams. I don't think I've replayed this one, even though I like it. Yeah, this one grooves. Bass grooves, drum grooves. Damn. Good riff. This one's about a toxic relationship, is what I wrote down on my first listen.
Oh.
Drain me dry, down to the last drop, pearls before swine. All flowers die, tap the last good vein, don't know how to shut it off. I guess it's that feeling of being empty and feeling of being like used after a toxic relationship has ended.
Yeah.
Or swine, what does that mean? Before swine.
I think I got ahead of myself. Pearls before swine.
We're in verse 1, second line. Pearls before swine. Does that mean like offering something valuable when the
Maybe
thing that
mixing.
follows is awful?
Um,
I don't know.
for me, I'm kind of mixing that in with "All Flowers Die," kind of the lyric for that.
All flowers die.
So to me, it's like presenting something valuable to something that's like tainted, and she might be regarding
Okay.
herself as the pearl, and him being something disgusting.
All flowers die. Does that mean also something that is beautiful is temporary?
I consider those to be
Maybe.
the same
Okay.
sentiment actually. So it's
I
like
was gonna say.
you have like
Go
a
ahead.
bouquet of flowers, but you just throw it in the mud.
Hmm.
Or a fire. Either one works. But that's like the sentiment of giving yourself up to this environment or this
Person.
yeah. And
Right.
kind of knowing the effects of what's going to happen and still allowing it to happen anyways. Or
I mean, that
rather
is
in
what a
retrospect.
toxic relationship is
Yeah.
inherently, right?
Yeah.
Like most people know what they're doing. Like most people can say what they're doing. I guess why it is toxic, where they fail to realize. Yeah, once you get me going, I don't know how to stop. Pre-chorus. I don't know how to stop. Don't know how to shut it off. So she doesn't know how to stop it from being drained, right? Because toxic relationships tend to overstay their welcome,
Right.
right? Even after it's over. All for your sake became the very thing I hate. Lost my way spinning in an endless figure eight. First 3 lines are pretty self-explanatory. You lose your way, you change as a person in this relationship. For the worse, right?
Yeah.
Spinning in an endless figure eight. That mean just like an endless loop? Like,
I mean, a figure
over...
eight sideways is the infinity symbol, so.
Oh. Huh. So weird. Interesting way.
Nah,
Infinity.
I think that's like a abstraction more than like an interpretation. So,
Oh,
I don't think it's
I was like, gonna be, is she overthinking? It never ends. What never ends? The toxic relationship could never end too, right? As opposed to
perhaps the effects of the
thinking
toxic relationship is the endless figure eight
that
metaphor.
too.
Yeah.
All right, verse 2. I won't miss the feeling. My flimsy spine, unsuspicious mind. I was only being kind, but you mistook me for weak. I think mistaking for weak can be an interesting line. It's not whether or not the perpetrator of this toxic relationship is aware that the other is weak or not. It could go both ways. I guess in her case, they did mistake her for being weak.
What does weak even mean?
Like agreeable, overly agreeable, or overly influenced. Because she talks about her flimsy spine, unsuspicious mind. Like not knowing when to put her foot down or be assertive. Even if it's something that her partner, she disagrees with her partner. That's weak. I've had friends that have been taken advantage of because they were weak or agreeable.
Right.
You
Okay.
know,
Okay.
I don't think it's an umbrella term for someone being for like, we say weak as a negative term, but you know, when paired with someone who isn't trying to take advantage of them, it's not necessarily a catch-all for a negative personality trait. She mentioned she was only being kind. Like kind people tend to be more agreeable too. So yeah. Um, pre-chorus, chorus again. Sing the classic idiom to burn candlelight, like burning till broad daylight. Candlelight, candlelight, burning at both ends tonight. How could I? How could I? If I made a thin ice, you'd be wise if you thought twice. I think the candlelight, candlelight, burn until broad daylight. I think that's a metaphor for her realizing that it was a toxic relationship. Like, if a candlelight's burning in the dark, you can't see everything around you. You can only see the candlelight. As opposed to if it's broad daylight, then you see the candlelight, but you also see the big picture. At least that's how I'm interpreting it, as an inevitable realization. Burning at both ends tonight. Does that just mean it's burning faster because she's realizing it faster?
Ooh.
Like it is
Wow.
the last
Okay.
straw,
Yeah.
or it's the last time she's in the dark. If I'm made of thin ice, you'd be wise if you thought ice. Made of thin ice.
I actually had a
Wise.
different interpretation, but
Shoot for it.
continue on. Um,
Yeah, shoot for it.
so burning at both ends tonight, and then also that you'd be wise if you thought twice. See the last chorus. Um, after that bridge is all for your sake became the very thing that I hate. I lost my way spinning in an endless figure eight. What remains, and now I think I'm losing my shape, not a trace, no end and no beginning. Figure eight. So to me, when I read Burning at Both Ends tonight, I think I think it's a testament to her transition into toxicity in the same way. And I think part of the statement of saying you'd be wise if you thought twice would be in believing. Well, also, I didn't even realize this, but you mistook me for weak. I think part of this, part of like this latter half of the song is her transition into like being toxic back. And so,
Mm,
burning at both ends. It was only burning one way. Now it's in both sides full force. And it's not going to be of any benefit to him. So it would have been wise
yeah.
for him to like think about that better. Um, and yeah, I guess the final chorus kind of summed up that picture for me as well.
I'm wondering if how I interpreted that the end of that chorus is losing my shape, like losing her individuality in the relationship. And I wonder if that's because it was, you know, toxic but also codependent as well.
Right.
Um which is why she says no ending, no end and no beginning. Like she's this person now and she's forgotten who she was before and she doesn't know how she'll be um in the near future.
Right.
Which could also attribute back to burning at both ends of the candle. No end and no beginning, whereas there's only the present state of the candle, which is the middle. But I like how you mentioned she's talking about potentially being toxic back, became the very thing that I hate, like you said, like she said, um, because that's how she was treated in the relationship. That's how people. That's the baggage that people tend to carry with them after being in a relationship like that too. So I like it.
Yeah, I was wondering what your interpretation was of that particular line with the way you were going. So becoming the very thing that I hate, is it if you're kind of losing yourself as you go, is that like the spiteful part towards your character of realizing that who you were before is no longer who you can be now?
Mm-hmm. I think so. I see that.
Okay, cool with that.
And or maybe yeah, it could even be like being more closed off after this relationship ended, whereas she was agreeable and more open before, which is what this person took advantage of her for as well. So it could be not necessarily toxic, but it could be more guarded even. But yeah, I think this is about that one guitarist dude that cheated on her.
Oh yikes!
But you know, um, I dig this song. I like the instrumental grooves. Yeah, I like the
I
production.
can't speak to it. I already forgot how the melody went.
Fair enough.
But lyrics wise, I've been very impressed with how all these songs have given me new appreciations for each of them. So
Next one,
yeah,
truck along here. This
that
one's
boy's
running
a
long. It's a
layer,
long pod, bro. Liar.
layer.
Layer.
That boy's a
The R.
layer.
Boys. Okay. All right. You're banned. I can't do this anymore.
Oh,
All right,
okay.
ladies and gentlemen. I hate to say it, but this is actually the last episode of Music Discussion.
Wow.
Spencer brought Ice Spice into the discussion, and that's not tolerated here. So,
Well,
shut that shit down. Oh no.
you're canceled.
What about that song? Is that voice like
I just like how she says liar because it's not wire,
liar?
it's fucking layer.
Layer. I haven't re that song.
Good. Don't do it.
You have, haven't you?
I hear from the other group. I mentioned how mid the song was to the other group, and they were like, "Yeah, it's most definitely mid at best." I was like, "Okay, yeah." It's just a meme song now. Well, I think social media has been propping it up too. That there's some TikToks that feature the song. Disgusting. Never again.
How is this song only 2 minutes? When I feel like when I listened to it, it was like 4 minutes long.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm not even okay. What the hell? This song reaches levels of zestiness that is unmatched. I
Oh
thought songs like
no.
Bikini Bottom, Munch X couldn't be beaten, but this can make the most warrior-like army-enrolled survival expert with a 7-foot-long beard and a six-pack let out a little giggle and a feet swing.
There's no way you're reading the
That's
comments on that
intense.
post.
That's intense. Well, like people love this shit, so the vibes are immaculate.
Oh my
I love it when great female artists come together.
Okay.
Moving on to people who can actually write a song.
True.
Paramore Liar. This one was a deep cut.
I don't know what
This
that
is
means.
about like falling for someone.
Oh,
Oh, I like this one.
hold on. I
Yeah,
need
this
a
one was like
sample really quick.
cut. It was like a slow jam. I enjoyed this one. Yeah.
Okay, song's a little slow for me, but
Very slow. The beginning is 30 seconds before the vocals kick in.
mm-hmm. Well, okay, I wasn't referencing that. I think I was at like a minute 30 in, but overall the song's pretty slow. But I think it's more my style than some of the others on the album.
Okay. I wrote down this is about denying feelings for someone. Um I'll speed through the verses, but it's pretty there's not a lot of metaphor. It's a lot of pretty much out there. What was the moment? It's hard to say. Talking about like when you fell for this person. I'm sure I don't remember anyway. It doesn't matter. Before I only knew to hesitate, then back in the grenade. So like, you know, you putting your pin back in the grenade. You're not like
You
I
were
guess like
expecting to
yeah. I
use
wasn't
it.
expecting to send it. Grenada. Um, before I only knew to hesitate. That's that initial feeling of skepticism, especially dude. I relate to this song on a personal level. um, before feeling something for someone, so you know you have this hesitant feeling, especially if you haven't felt this feeling in a while. You're skeptical. Um, and all the ways I keep you safe from me. There's that self sabotage. There's the denial. Um, And the chorus, "Oh my love, I lied to you, but I never needed to. Oh my love, I lied to you, but you always knew the truth." I think she's talking to herself, not to the other person here. She's lying to herself essentially. She could. It's nice because it's presented in a way where it could be about the other person, and maybe they could have known, right? Because maybe you were being too obvious or whatnot. But you could also be talking to yourself and how you should love yourself, and you never needed to lie to yourself to hesitate or to go back on any feeling you may have had. Um, Verse 2, I got too good at fighting chemicals and dodging arrows I was asking for, wading through the fog, and then it disappeared naked when I'm here. So fighting chemicals once again, like you know
My feels.
the feels is dangerous and you should avoid them. Um, Wading through the fog and then it disappeared. I'm wondering about this, the second half of this second verse. And then it disappeared. Does it disappear? Does the fog disappear when you're acknowledging your feelings? Because I would think that the fog is present because you're undecided on how you feel. Why should I deny what's all at once so crystal clear? I would assume yeah. We go to the chorus and another bridge. Love is not an easy thing to admit, but I'm not ashamed of it. Love is not a weakening, not a weakening. If you feel it rushing in, don't be ashamed of it. Love is not. Repeats. Yeah, I don't know. I can't relate to the bridge personally. It sounds like this engagement between, I would assume, is Haley talking about her perspective, um, presenting it in this way. There's like it's not an easy thing to admit, but there's an easygoingness to how she's falling for this person. And I don't know. A lot of these feelings that she's having are easily put into words, I guess. This could be also like, right after. I mean, the song's right after Figure Eight, so I assume strategically placed uh, pleasant relationship after the toxic one. And all of her reservations in the beginning of the song contribute to, the self-sabotage and the firewall she put up after the relationship that occurred in Figure Eight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so she's like denying herself because the last relationship, people tend to do this, is that they like to deny themselves happiness when there's someone who could be good for you, but you don't feel like you deserve someone good for you, especially after you were treated in a poor way. seen this countless times. Pretty, it's just out there. It's pretty cut and dry, I'd say.
I'm getting hung up over for the bridge. Love is not an easy thing to admit, but I'm not ashamed of it. Um, I'm wondering if the ashamed part is in relation to feeling love, or it's in relation to her boundaries to admitting love. Like she's not ashamed that she has these barriers up.
Hmm. I'm wondering if she's also saying she's not ashamed of acknowledging that love is not an easy thing to admit, rather than being ashamed of acknowledging her love.
Yeah.
You know, that can mean different things. But I think the next line also kind of points us in the direction of she's just talking about it, admitting love. Like love isn't inherently shameful. And that could be her attributing it to, once again, figure eight in her past relationship. Like maybe she felt a lot of shame in her past relationship, or she felt maybe the man or woman, or whoever they may be, that she was in a relationship with before made her feel shameful for admitting her love for them. And this is her growing from that and acknowledging the other. You know, that in a healthy relationship, it shouldn't be this way.
Right.
But yeah, I dig this song. When you're in the feels, sad boy hours, willing to listen to it again.
Wow. Okay.
Um,
Guess we're listening
any
to it tonight.
what the fuck? No, bro, I'm trying to get myself out of the hole, not stay here. Um, Closing thoughts on this one? We're running long on this one.
Nah.
I think
We
we
can
spent a lot
speed
of
through the
time
other two.
earlier. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't.
ready
I
to
don't
go.
think I was insane about the other two. I liked the sound of Crave. Kind of relaxing, laid back. Um, I wrote down general feelings and nostalgia in terms of what this song is talking about. She talks about living in the present.
Ah, fantasizing.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Um,
Fantasizing the future, but also being present.
yep. There is no moment I'd want to change. Even like the bad times, like all it took to make me cry was being alive. Yeah. Second, feel the press, the present, future, and the past connecting. Any second, past connecting. Yeah. It could be even like her talking about the album rollout, like how excited maybe she was before they released the album, and maybe how she wants to make another album. Wink. Um, or even like the writing process for a new album. It could be anything. It's a feels good song. Any other thoughts?
I actually think there's a lot of beauty to the song. I don't remember how it went exactly, and I don't think it stood out enough for me to remember it, but I do think the first verse and the second verse speak to a relatable moment
Mm.
Or rather, two relatable moments. So, I'm good to move on though, because I think it's best if we wrap this up too.
Cool. I like the guitar tone. I like the clean guitar tone in the back.
Big
Melody is
Skull.
nice. It's like a pleasant. No, for Crave. I'm just mentioning the rest of the band.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, very almost like a old school, like not really like a new wave, but I don't know, like a 90s 80s kind of crowded house, or like a Tears for Fears, or a Depeche Mode almost. I don't know. I'm uneducated on those ages of guitar, but it's like a throwback sound. Indie rock. Thick Skull. Remember this one being kind of introspective and sad. I wrote down overthinking, sense of self blame. Watching the lyrics now, talking about this song is the epitome of the I can fix them attitude. I'm a magnet for broken pieces. I'm attracted to broken people. I pick them up and now my finger's bleeding. And it looks like my fault, and it looks like I'm caught red-handed. Um, hit over the head, epiphany, over my head repeatedly. Thick skull never did nothing for me. Same lesson again. Come on, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. So kind of talking about, it is at their own self-expense that these bad things are happening to them because they're taking in people who are inevitably broken and trying to fix them, or even just like house them. Um, but she revisits this like lyrical theme of this is how I am and how much of me is willing to change this, or you know almost a form of acceptance, right? It's already inherent to her character. um Only I know where all the bodies are buried. Thought by now I'd find them a little less scary. Might be easier, might get easier, but you don't get used to it. Keep it on autopilot. Like all the things she's wronged, all the people she's wronged, she knows who they are. Um, she knows what maybe she's done. You learn to live with it, but you don't get used to it, right?
Yeah.
They're still around. The body count up to now, Captain. Just more talking about those bodies who were buried. Um, I wonder if the bridge where she says, "Come out with your hands up," "Come out with your hands up."
Sounds like it's addressed to her.
It could be her blaming them too.
Oh.
Like she's blaming them for who she is, and that could be an interesting theme. I don't know. Seems very introspective of her own self blame. This song, but you know, it's similar to like Running Out of Time when she talks about, oh, why is everyone else in a rush, right? maybe this bridge is her, and that also happens in the bridge of that song. In this bridge, she talks about, um, what if it is you guys who are causing me to be this way? Kind of blaming your environment without taking any um, responsibility for yourself in a way.
Right.
Can be a common theme in what she's writing, but I like the song as a closer. It's slower. I don't know how often I'll re-listen to it, but I don't mind it. On the way to wrapping it up.
Okay. I guess for my input on this, I think I only listened to this song one time, but
I did too.
yeah, I guess as I'm reading over the lyrics, it does sound like well, pretty much everything you described. I'm not going to repeat. So, as a concluding song to the album, um, the way that you fit it in is part of like the relationships that she's had of the past, kind of like a remembrance of or a guilt remembrance of experiences that she's had with other people.
Yeah. The interaction. Yeah.
Would you say it's also a realization that everyone ends up being just broken? Or everyone is broken?
Not as much of this song as what's the other song that talks about? I think it's You First. Talks about people. Every person has a devil on their shoulder. But I think it's still, I don't know. This one felt more introspective than it did outwardly outspective. I don't know. But I can see it. Cool. This one ran long. Damn, 2 hours?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess part of it was I felt like
There's
I
a lot
didn't
of
have a whole lot to bring to the conversation, mostly because I didn't think the musical aspect of it was as enjoyable as like some of the other ones that we visited so far. But
where?
I think as you like went into the lyrics of each of the songs and what they were supposed to represent, I think remembering how those songs played in my head, so off of memory, trying to remember what they sounded like, but then also tying in like the meaning behind them, I think gave me like a new outlook on them overall. So, but definitely like more meaningful, and I guess I was willing to downplay the art when I was listening to it, but I think the new perspective has helped out the general outlook. So
I'm glad to hear that. So, I mean, sometimes I don't even feel like, you have those moments where you don't always feel like you're down to get your opinion changed. Sometimes I don't know if you feel that way, but I feel those days or even weeks sometimes when you're not down to get a perspective shift, or you kind of just want to live in your own bubble for a little bit. And it's probably a bad thing, but I'm glad you were open about it. You were open about being open-minded
yeah,
and approaching it with that attitude. So appreciate that.
no, for sure. Yeah, I don't think there's an album that you can send my way that I wouldn't be like open to hearing something new over.
All right, boys.
So.
Next week we'll be listening to the Ice Spice album coming out.
Okay. time to become a basic bitch. Let's go.
Where's
Inside
the
the mind. But yeah, thought it
inside
was
the spice?
inside the spice.
Cool.
But yeah, I'm fine with cutting things off from there.
Yeah.
I didn't have too much. I feel like it's been so long since I've done a podcast, so I thought it might have been like
That's why
needed
I
that
put
I
a
spoke.
question mark by the number of the podcast because I wasn't sure. Because I announced this at least like a week and a half ago, and I wasn't sure if you were gonna do something in between then.
Nope. I thought I well, yeah. I think I had something planned out for last weekend, or I was gonna try and do that, and then I don't think I ever. I think I just chose to go with yours and then move on.
Call it for
So
then. Yeah,
yeah,
your last one was a month ago.
true.
So
Between there was a moment, I think it was November and January. Those were the longest two spread. So even
mm,
this one's not that bad. Question mark. It's like this one's just a month away, but the one before that was like 2 months. So, but now it's just kind of speculation over what we've done. So, no, I'm good to call things there, unless if you have like any last thoughts.
no, I'm chilling, man.
Okay.
Down to do another one. I'll think of something. Or if you want to do one, I'm always open to we could do a EDM one, or I don't know if there's anything hot that's cooking right now,
Like,
but
what was that?
or a country one even. Try country.
Yeah, you know what?
Dude, the new Twice album.
Okay, let's go.
Well, when that comes out,
Some
we can do it. We can do
K-pop.
it. We can run it. I'm down.
Yeah, I was waiting for what Love You Back from Madian. I don't know if
Is he
that's a part
cooking?
of a I don't know if that's like the what you called the introductory song for the album. I
Lead
think
single?
that's what it was. Um
Take a peek. I liked that one, right? Yeah, I did. Love you back.
I don't know if that's a part of the same album or if it's like it's supposed to be a new one, so
Oh, 9 months ago. Oh, this old.
yeah, how long did those usually like spread?
Dude, it could be anything. The new SZA album, she one of the singles that was on the album ended up. Sometimes artists will like release singles and they won't be on the album, or they will, and it'll be like a last minute decision to just add them onto the album, and they're not the lead single. You know,
Oh,
so
okay.
it depends. It could be like 2 years in advance or something else, but usually an
Sheesh.
album rollout doesn't. I haven't seen anything crazier than like 6 months to announce the release of an album. So, um, I don't know. Stay tuned. Maybe
Stay tuned. Yeah, we'll look out for stuff.
for
Okay.
sure.
Uh Probably rambling